Liz Cambage, a four-time WNBA All-Star, has provided some insight on her departure from the Los Angeles Sparks in the 2022 campaign. Cambage stated on Instagram that she had decided to step away from the league for the time being, listing a few changes she would want to see made to the WNBA's player empowerment and support policies. Here's why Liz Cambage quit the WNBA and all that followed, from the drama that erupted after she called a player a racist term to choosing to work for an Israeli basketball club rather than retire. Naturally, people can't stop talking about her even after she quit the game in 2022. Longtime supporters may still clearly recall Liz's sudden departure from the Los Angeles Sparks during the 2022 season. She didn't even wait for the game to finish or anything, which was clearly quite disappointing for the club and its supporters. Liz, for her part, stated in an Instagram post that she was leaving because she wanted to temporarily pull back from both her team and the league as a whole. She expressed her regret to her teammates, stating that it was an honor to play for them and that it was a dream come true to share the court with all of her amazing teammates. Liz also wished that her time with the team had ended differently, but she was forced to leave in this manner by events beyond her control. She also asked the WNBA to establish safer spaces and a more robust support network for each and every one of its players in the same article, citing the same conditions as her reason. Now, by circumstances, we obviously mean the racial controversy that Cambage found herself in, a fact that she also brings up in her piece. Before she could address some of the rumors circulating around her, she stated in her letter that she would be spending the time off to concentrate on her mental health. And in reality, the story she is referring to as a rumor began in 2021 during a warm-up match before the Olympics when she called the Nigerian athletes apes. Indeed, the supporters weren't pleased with it, but it didn't stop there. Liz got into a heated argument with those players, both physically and verbally, to the point where the warm-up game had to be called off. Liz even gave Nigerian center player Victoria Macau an elbow, and the blow was so severe that Victoria's neck was really gashed. Liz was the subject of an independent investigation since it was evident that the entire situation was rather severe. Eventually, she received a formal reprimand as well, but only for her physical altercation. What about the remarks she made then? Liz called them monkeys, but she said a lot of other offensive things, including telling the squad to return to their third world nation. Whoa! The Nigerian players attested to this personally, as several others remembered the term monkeys being used. Because Liz is part Nigerian on their father's side, she actually approached the Nigerian players before the practice game and expressed her preference to play with them rather than her own team, which made it even more shocking to them. She was complaining about how racist her Opals teammates were already, but I suppose Liz wasn't any different. Later on, it became clear that Liz's colleagues at Opals were having their own problems with her, as they often called her out on her bad behavior. One of them even stated that they could probably write a book on her troubles since there were so many of them, and that's honestly not startling to someone who's followed Liz's career. However, the racism was at an all-time low, and the supporters had had enough. They were furious, and as soon as this information went viral, Twitter exploded. As was well written, racial slurs are never used accidentally or in the heat of the moment during a fight or something similar. Rather, they're always planned and reveal deeper problems with the speaker. Fans were most surprised, though, by Liz's statement, given that she's a woman of color herself. Regarding Liz, she said she didn't say any of it, but it's like she did. Who would confess to anything like that, particularly Liz? She shared about the entire situation on Instagram, expressing her sadness at all the charges the media had leveled at her. She stated categorically that she had never used any racist slurs and that the mainstream account of what transpired in 2021 was inaccurate and deceptive. She didn't refute the physical altercation, of course, because it was captured on camera. However, she did have an explanation for it. Liz said that she had simply inadvertently fouled a Nigerian player, who then became enraged and began abusing her violently on the sidelines. Liz said that despite being shoved to the ground and struck in the face, she maintained her composure and just turned to leave. However, she did finally lose her composure, as seen by the wounds on the Nigerian player. Even then, Liz insisted that if there had been professional officials on the court for the warm-up game to protect both sides, the entire situation might have been easily averted. She wasn't afraid to admit that she took full responsibility for her role, but didn't she kind of distance herself from any engagement at all? So is there any apology here? Since most people didn't buy it, the debate inevitably grew worse and fans began disparaging Liz whenever they could. Obviously, the fact that she was experiencing internal issues with the Sparks also didn't help. She consistently criticized her colleagues for not giving her enough possession of the ball. Incidentally, she did this in front of the public while filming. Naturally, Liz deliberately overlooked the fact that her own subpar play on the court was likely the reason her teammates didn't pass the ball to her when criticizing them. Liz's remarks obviously infuriated them all, and before long, they were forcing the ball into her hand even though it didn't make sense for the play. Naturally, the squad suffered some humiliating defeats as a result of that. And what do you know? Liz remained infuriated. Yes, she threw tantrums in locker rooms and shouted at her teammates. Her crew detested her not just because of her actions, but also because they felt she was incredibly entitled to everyone. Like when Liz asked to wear the number 8 jersey, remember? However, the idea was rejected since the number was retired in memory of former player Delisha Milton-Jones. To be honest, it's fairly terrible that Liz even asked for it when she knew the number had been discontinued. Though she quickly withdrew her statement, it was clear that she still wanted number 1. And as every Spark supporter is aware, Amanda ZB, the team's forward, was the owner of the number. However, this time, the franchise approached Amanda and requested her phone number instead of rejecting Liz. And it goes without saying that ZB declined them. So can you really blame her? Since that's her phone number, it must be very important to her. But Liz was unconcerned. Despite knowing Amanda's opinions, she persisted in her demands and continued to nag the team for them. The managers finally had to give in and hand it to Liz since things had become so awful. You know what the worst thing is? ZB never received a call. Nope, she learned about this from social media. Liz must have felt extremely insulted, and the crew as a whole would have automatically detested her for it. It was evident to them that the Sparks were favoring certain players, and this clearly upset everyone. That type of resentment is never good for a team sport, so it does make sense that Liz thought her workplace was unsupportive and unpleasant, and therefore she quit both the Australian national team and the WNBA. It's true that she didn't represent her nation while it held the FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup in 2022, and she doesn't want to do so in the future. Liz has made it clear that she will no longer be representing Australia in the Olympics or the World Cup. But really, what is she even doing if she isn't on the national or league teams? Does this imply her retirement? Not exactly though, because in March of 2023, roughly a year after Liz's WNBA exit was made public, it was revealed that the Australian athlete had formally signed with the Israeli basketball team Maccabi Ashdod. Liz has signed with Ashdod, joining the ranks of several other WNBA players who have done the same, including Nadia Heaton and Kanani Brown. Additionally, the squad itself won both the Cup and the regular season championship this past season, placing them atop the Israeli Division I League. Liz must still be going strong. Thus, Liz Cambage's exit from the WNBA was marked by her calling the Nigerian players derogatory names and her decision to work for an Israeli basketball club rather than retire. Well guys, that's gonna do it for today. Do you think Liz Cambage did the right thing? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below and subscribe to our channel for more information.